with Larry Spicer. An opportunity for you to listen in. Call up and speak out on the issues affecting your life. Speak Out with Larry Spicer is brought to you on 1600 WULM, your community station, to keep you informed of the people, programs, and problems and positives in your world. Our studio phone lines are now open. Call 399-9000 or toll free at 1-866-405-1478. That's 399-9000 locally or toll free at 1-866-405-1478. And now, here's Larry Spicer.
Good morning and welcome to Speak Out for Saturday, February the 16th, 2008. My in-studio guest this morning, as promised, your Clark County Commissioner and mine, John Detrick. Good morning, John.
Good morning. It's always good to be here, Larry.
We have a number of things we can talk about, obviously. There's never anything to worry about when you and I are on the air, obviously, because, in fact, I was thinking on the way over here this morning that if we had somebody that was brand new at my position, you would be a good first interview because you can take over and talk. That's actually how I got a job one time, because when I went down to cable years ago when I was in college, my first job was director of the daycare program at the Y called the Summer Fun Club. And part of the incentive package was that I was able to recruit some more people for the program. I got paid, a little bit of money for doing that. So I was looking, we didn't have any money, and I was looking for cheap ways to advertise, and cable at the time had to do some community programs, so I got on the program, and I think they were impressed with the fact they didn't have to ask too many questions, and I just kind of took over, so they asked me if I would try out for the host, and I got that, and the reason why they recruited me for this job is because they heard I came out of my mother talking, and the rest is history. So we're on year number 4 now, and of course you've been here a number of times, and we can talk about any number of things. Let's just first of all welcome you to the program, and you are running for re-election, but it's really not a run because nobody's against you.
That's correct. The voters of Clark County were very good to me, and I'm running unopposed on the ticket in November. As a result, I'm going to put up about 25 signs, and on the bottom of them, since I don't need a website, I'm covering up my website with a thank you for the people of Clark County having confidence in me to do another 4 years and continue to move Clark County forward, which we are doing slowly but surely.
So I guess we should dispel the rumor. The rumor has been going around for a long time that the Democratic candidate is going to need Ohio in order to win, and that Governor Strickland might be a vice presidential candidate. Now, he has denied that, and anybody who knows him has said that he is committed to the people of Ohio at this point. But I guess we can dispel the rumor. You're not going to be on the Republican ticket, are you, as a vice presidential candidate?
No, definitely not. I'm perfectly happy here in Clark County. I had opportunities to go to Columbus, and there's no reason for me to go over there. We've got so much going on here, and this community's been good to our family for over 80 years. Well, we go back almost 250 years, but it's a good community to be in, and my goal is to continue to make it move forward into the 21st century in a positive way.
I met you years ago down at Tyron Battery, and
yes, sir.
Obviously we became a little closer in terms of a relationship when we had the thing on the ballot for the stadium and the park district and the fairgrounds and what have you. And, I don't know that politics were in your blood at that point in time. I think you were kind of watching from behind. You were a teacher at one point in time. But is it fair to say that at this point they are kind of in your blood?
I've been well blessed, Larry. I started out as a teacher in Mechanicsburg High School, went to Springfield South High School. My father passed away, and I went into a family business to help my mother, and I really anguished whether I wanted to do it. I did that for over 25 years, and my brother and I had a very successful business, and he's moved on into a coin business in New Carlisle, and I wish him the best over there. And I have really enjoyed this last 11 years. For one thing, I have great people to work with. The potential here is unbelievable, what we can do to make a difference in a community, and I really enjoy the job immensely, and I've, on that basis, committed to another 4 years.
All right. So you're going to be involved, obviously, because, at this point, it appears as though you're going to be reelected, and you can kind of...
I'm already reelected, Larry. I voted absentee for myself.
All right. Well, then I guess as long as they don't lose the absentee ballot, you're okay. Let's talk about some things that are happening in and around the county at this point. And I know as a commissioner, a lot of times you get, the credit. A lot of times when it's perceived as a negative kind of thing, even though you may not necessarily have a direct hand in it. But for some reason, people have forgotten their civics lessons and they think that, hey, he's the commissioner. By God, he's involved. And I read the little pot shots that are taken in the Speak Out section. In fact, I think the Speak Out section of the Springfield paper probably has replaced the comic section. There are more people that read that now, I believe, than the comics for laughs each day. But the point is that, the last thing I've heard the commission accused of is raising all the taxes in Clark County. And why did you guys do that? You can't live within your means, and yet you're raising our taxes. And I'm not saying that now, but I'm playing radio host.
Oh, yes. Well, first, keep in mind, for general government lesson, also I would like to mention, Larry, if you want to give them the number, we will take calls in this next hour and a half, and I'll talk on any subject. And we would like to start at 11:15 on probably the most controversial subjects if people want to listen in and deal with as much as I can about real estate taxes, which is one of the areas I know you're alluding to.
All right, let me give you the numbers. 399-9000, 399-9000. That's the local number if you live in the local LATA, as they call it. And if you live outside that, it will be long distance. We'll pay for the call. Just dial 866-405-1478. Again, 866-405-1478. 399-9000, 866-405-1478. Our in-studio guest this morning, John Detrick, Clark County Commissioner. Are you the president these days?
No.
I didn't think so. I saw that in the paper also, but I didn't believe that.
Not allowed to be president because of certain politics that goes on within Clark County, but that's life.
All right.
I'm happy and I enjoy my job.
Who is,
I'm a roaming ambassador. Commissioner Roger Tackett is the president.
The president?
Yes.
Okay, good enough. So let's
getting back to your original question, you asked about perception. First off, we are not the city commission. There are 5 city commissioners that run the city of Springfield, 4 city commissioners, and Mayor Warren Copeland. We interface with them and work with them, but they are separate and they are elected within the city. There are 3 Clark County commissioners. 2 of us are up for election this year, incumbent Commissioner David Hartley, and he has an opponent, and myself running unopposed for Clark County Commission. The 3rd commissioner will be up in 2 years. That's Commissioner Roger Tackett. He, however, though, is going to be on the ballot as he is trying to be state senator for Madison, Greene, and Clark County. So those are the 3 of us. We're elected for 4-year terms, and our salary is determined by the state of Ohio based on the population of Clark County. We basically are cheerleaders for the county. We make decisions in the budget area as far as the other 9 elected officials and the 8 judges. But we do not in any way raise any taxes with the exception of a half-cent sales tax, which we put on January 1st. We put this on for a year and a half. We've done it 4 other times. It'll come off in mid-09, and we need this to keep the county hotel open. It's running at full capacity, the jail, and 2/3 of every amount of money we have goes into what we call our criminal justice system, either the courts or the jail. And as a result of that, a big chunk of our money is openly committed. We have very little to do what I call take care of the 95% of people that never go to jail. And that's where we really need to do
And while we're
more.
on the jail, we have a progressive sheriff, of course, and Sheriff Gene Kelly, and he's done some interesting things. And one of the things that he has done is, and this is just a recent thing, you can actually listen to the monitor of the sheriff's radio traffic on the website. And in addition to that, you can go into the website and figure out who is registered at the Clark County Jail as a guest. Meaning, if you want to know if somebody's in jail, you can, of course, call the Jail Command Center, and they'll tell you. But if you want to go online, you can find that information there as well.
It is public record, and they've made it much more accessible. Just about 2 weeks ago, he put on the website, you can listen to the conversations going on of the deputies out in the field.
And, of course, the city, a lot of people were kind of upset about that, but the philosophy there was that the criminals can listen too, and they don't necessarily want them listening, so they have a scrambled system at this point, that it's virtually, it's possible, but you have to go a lot further down the road in order to be able to do it.
That is correct. The city has, of every 100 people that are locked up in the jail, it's between 75 and 80 of them come from the city of Springfield. The other 20-25% come from the county. The county sheriff his main responsibility is running the jail and maintaining law and order among the roughly 80,000 citizens out in the county.
All right, now if we get into what we normally talk about, because I know you're a big cheerleader of this, you talk about tourism being a big industry for Clark County, as it is for most counties, and how people who come into the county will pay sales tax, so we're actually getting a good bang out of them as well. But let's talk about one of your favorite subjects, which I know is economic growth in Clark County. And for some reason, we've talked about this a number of times, but there is a perception out there that Clark County is not growing, that we are stagnated. Our population has declined. We're going to hell in a handbasket. I mean, things are just doom and gloom.
Part of what you're saying is true, Larry. It's not a perception, it's a reality. Our population was 157,000 in 1970. Today, it is somewhere around 140,000, and they do an update on the census every year based on post office mailboxes or street addresses. And we have actually continued a slight decline. I am predicting, in fact, if anybody ever wants a public speaking engagement, I do this around Clark County economically, and I've done 3 speeches on it, and I've got another 5 to go in the next 30 days, but I'm open for any programs. They can reach me at 521-2003, and I will come out. It's a non-political speech, but in this presentation, I go over and actually show you about 25 items that are involved and either distributed or manufactured in Clark County, and a lot of them would surprise you. For instance, we make over half the embalming fluid used in the United States. We make all the piano plates used in the United States. So we got a lot going here for us, but we need, being a bedroom community between Dayton and Columbus, our big job loss came when International Harvester shrank from 6,500 to 1,300. Now, we're on the verge of a major breakthrough with the farsightedness of 402 and the company to both make concessions. We have commitments here for International Harvester to retain the 1,300 jobs they had, add another 500, and when you add those 500, there's an economic theory that for every job on the assembly line, there's 2.6 jobs in the community at the subcontractors, like Snyder Tank makes the gas tanks. They're going to be needing more of them. You're going to need more seats. You're going to need more mirrors. Everything involved in this truck, the sub-companies in Clark County, will lead to a very positive ripple effect, and all of this is supposed to be in place by next year this time. Actually, with International, it'll start in the fall with these lines coming in for General Motors trucks to be produced here. So I'm very, very excited about that. I've been very concerned that our property values would go down if we lost International Harvester another 20%. With the retention of them, you're going to start to see them climb with the ripple effect of all this. But there's so much going on in this community. I'm going to go on a limb right here, Larry, and tell you there's 3,000 jobs retained or added at International Harvester, and on top of that, there's another 4,000 jobs coming in with new businesses or the present businesses that are expanding. And there's a list right in front of you just touching the edge of the iceberg, and that changes daily.
All right, and what is causing this? And I'll ask you for your analysis based upon your years in office and your observations. Why are we losing population? And despite the fact that we're losing population, we seem to have some rather vibrant things going on economically.
It's been economically, we were in kind of a scuff from 1990 to 2005 with a very active Chamber of Commerce under Mike McDormand and David Zack working jointly with the Turner Foundation, Dave Hobson, and Tom Franzen from City of Springfield. We've made a major turnaround here, and we're more, shall we say, oriented to help businesses come here. We do not give tax credits unless it will lead to manufacturing jobs. People say, well, we're enticing people to go to Bechtel Avenue. They're there because of the geographical location. They're not there because they received any tax breaks at all. Mm-hmm. Retail, we've never had a policy of that, and we have no plans of it. It's just jobs that are created, either technical or manufacturing.
So what about the population? Why are we losing people?
Well, our manufacturing base has shrunk from 22 to 18%, but because of farsightedness, we now have the Next Edge Park, which is growing, and these are going to be 21st century jobs. There's going to be approximately 500 of them out there. within the next year. You've got 2 new buildings going up, and you've got LexisNexis, which is already there, going to increase their employment another 35. So we need to first have the jobs, or as they say in baseball, Larry, build it and they will come. You build a stadium and we'll be okay. We're building that stadium right now, Larry, and you're going to see the ripple effect starting in the next 5 to 10 years. You're going to see it within the next year.
All right, now, when we tell people their property taxes are going to go up, are they still going to come?
Let's make a point. If anybody wants to get involved in that, let's make 11:15 the time at which we'll start to talk about property taxes, and we will take any calls that we can. This is probably the hottest button I've been in on in the 11 years I've been in county government.
All right,
and
I'll mark 11:15 down and set my alarm so that I can ask the first question on that.
Okay.
All right, so economic growth. We do have some economic growth despite declining population. And the sales tax that you mentioned earlier, let's talk about that. There are some people that are a little perturbed about that, but then there are other people that say, hey, it's necessary. I think the thing that more people are concerned about than anything is the fact that it's an imposed tax. It's sort of like taxation without representation. And as you well know, back in 92, I think it was,
You're
you
correct.
and I were working on this levy that we proposed that really most folks around here didn't have a clue you could even do. They had no idea you could use sales tax to fund things. And
Yes.
at the time, it seemed to me like it was the fairest tax because, you only paid it on purchases. The elderly are least affected because they don't make a lot of large purchases. You benefit from people who are coming from out of the county that help pay the freight on it. So there's a lot of positives as far
Well,
as
you can go on. The average half-cent sales tax, which you and I were asking for in 92, incidentally, taking you back into time, if you're not familiar with it, this was to be split over, I think, 5 years between the baseball or the recreational community, the fairgrounds.
1 year, one time.
1 year, one time. Okay.
1/4 of 1%.
And we got beat 60-40. 60%
Well, and
voted
we
against
won
us.
the city, and we won around the city in Springfield
Moorfield
Township.
and
Moorfield
Springfield.
Township. We got really clobbered out around the South Vienna and New Carlisle areas because, South Vienna kind of relates more to Columbus, and New Carlisle relates more to Dayton.
Yes.
But, for the money that we had to promote it, it wasn't a bad deal, and it did open up some revenue channels for people, obviously,
Right.
to fund things in the future.
And we got through. But let's briefly describe this tax. And I notice I used to be upset at the speak out in your turn because it gave people a license for insanity when they didn't understand the total subject. But you just take it and you try to work through it. And if anybody writes a letter to the editor and they're making statements about county government that they don't seem to have a grasp of, I, in a friendly way, call them, invite them down. In fact, this offers to anybody that wants to spend a half day with me in county government or a whole day. I'll give you a guided tour. I do this on a regular basis, and I love to talk about Clark County government. I love to talk about
He's
Clark
very
County.
cordial, too, folks. He'll buy you a cup of coffee or whatever. He brought me some coffee this morning. It's really good. And let's plug, where'd this come from? Coffee Expression.
Coffee's
from North
Expression
Plum.
on
It's
North
really good.
Plum.
It has a mint flavor. And I know there are probably some people that bring me things to bribe me, but I know you didn't do that because you know it wouldn't work.
Right.
I would still drink your coffee, but still ask you the tough questions. So, all right, go ahead.
You got my train of thought off. Okay, sales tax. It is not on food. It's not on food carried out. If you eat in a restaurant, it is. It's not on medical things. It's not on farm items. In Ohio, we are highly selective. If you go to about any other state, they tax everything. We only tax retail items, such as cars, which is the biggest thing. And for the average adult, this half-cent sales tax, which is on till next July, will cost you $60 a year if you don't buy an automobile. And if you think you're going to beat the system by buying an automobile in Montgomery County or somewhere, it don't work that way because it always comes back to your home county. For instance, a couple of the car dealers here do great regional business. And say somebody from Miami County comes to one of the car dealers, and we've got 4 big ones, Springfield Ford, Bill Marine, Foreman Blair, and Jeff Weiler. Anybody that buys their car here, it goes back to their home county.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing when a Clark County leaves, it goes back. Now, we've got to break the other way. They don't have that rule at Ritchie Brothers, which is in South Vienna, and the county commissioners worked very hard to get them here. When you buy a road grader at Ritchie Brothers, if you're eligible to pay sales tax, it stays in Clark County. So that's why we were so fired up to get Ritchie Brothers here.
That's a heck of a facility, I'll tell you. I've not been in it yet because I'm too busy and I haven't had a chance to get out during normal hours. But when you look at that thing from the road, Interstate 70, it is an impressive structure.
Okay, and let me invite any auction they have, and they publicize 4 auctions a year. They're usually 1 or 2 days. It's open to everybody. You don't have to go in and get a registration number. You're allowed to walk around, watch the auction. If you want to, they welcome you to get one. A third of their sales are over the internet.
And it's inside.
It's inside. The caterers are Young's Jersey Dairy, so you can go out and have lunch out there, which I do just to see all the activity and see all the people coming into Clark County from somewhere else.
They drive those big bulldozers across the stage, right?
Yes, they drive them right across the stage, and you're sitting out in an arena that'll seat up to about 600 people, and you just wave your card when you want it, and there's something like 4 auctioneers watching you.
Now, has the county bought anything from them yet?
I cannot speak to that. We are kind of handicapped in that respect, in that any purchase over $25,000 has to be bid.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure whether the county engineers went out and bought anything under 25 or not. But when you hit that 25,000 figure, we have to show bids, and we have to comply with a minimal state bid. And usually when we buy equipment, it's a little easier to buy it through the state bid or go to a local dealer. Say we're buying a Ford truck, and it's a cost on the state bid $28,000. We can go to the Ford dealer and say, hey, will you match this so we can buy locally? And they'll do it, so it helps our sales volume.
So the sales tax, in your opinion, was a necessary thing. The extra amount that was imposed, how long is it going to be on, and what kind of money is it generating?
It started January 1st, and it'll be on till July 1st. It'll generate $6 million a year, or roughly $9 to $10 million, depending how the sales tax goes. And we expect it to grow because of all the potential jobs that are coming here in Clark County in the next year. We are what you call actually a debtor county. For every dollar that you or I have to spend in sales tax, Larry, we're only spending 85 cents of it in Clark County. Mm-hmm. We're going to the Fairfield Mall, Columbus, for the other 15 cents. Champaign County's worse than us. Of every dollar they got, they're only spending 65 cents in their county. Fortunately, they're spending the rest of it eating here in Clark County.
Now, if you talk about Greene, our neighbors to the south, they're probably in better shape.
Greene is in much better shape. Of the 88 counties, 11 counties make more than $1. Greene is one of the wealthiest. Fayette County, because of the mall it has on I-71. Our prosecutor, Steve Shoemaker, says we need to get more malls here, or we need to get people off. We don't even have our water and sewer at our 8 intersections for I-70. We're slowly getting it, and there's 70,000 cars a day go up and down I-70. I'd just like to get 5,000 of them off buying potato chips here. We could charge them tax on that.
Yep, that's right. All right, we're going to pause for a commercial break. Our in-studio guest this morning is Clark County Commissioner John Detrick. We'll be back, and we'll give you the phone numbers again, 399-9000. If you have calls, John would be happy to answer your questions, 866-405-1478. Again, 399-9000 or 866-405-1478. Speak Out continues following these important announcements.
That's fast. No, the top's right, the bottom's wrong.
Confusing. Beginning on March 1st, Nurturing Fathers for Life has a solution to help you discover the joys of fatherhood. Join us for free expert training sessions taking place at Urban Light Ministries, located at 501 South Wittenberg Avenue. Come and learn to connect or reconnect with your child. Be a part of a parent support clinic. Enjoy a warm, hearty breakfast in a supportive atmosphere. Call Urban Light Ministries today for more information at 328-0122. That's 328-0122. Be encouraged and become equipped to be the best dad you can be.
Have you ever thought about going to church on Saturday night? There's a place that meets for church every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Great music, encouraging people, messages of hope, and great fun for children up through the 5th grade. Everyone is welcome anytime. It's at Fellowship Church, located directly across the street from the Sears store in the Upper Valley Mall in Springfield. Very casual, so come as you are. And if you need to come late or leave early, that's no problem. All of this happens on a Saturday, and it's been going on for 5 years. Not a gimmick or experiment, it's a real church service without all the religious words and traditions. just a place to learn about God and His love for all of us and to meet people who are real. The Saturday evening service at Fellowship Church at 6:30 p.m., a place for caring, growing, life coaching, and marriage mentoring. It's a welcoming, no-pressure, family-friendly place. Fellowship Church, 2301 Valley Loop Drive, 322-5381.
Every day, Joe US 40 Grill rolls out the blue carpet to our senior guests between 4 and 5 p.m. Seniors can enjoy a choice of 4 fantastic meals for just $6.29. The choices are from our regular menu and include real portions of great comfort food such as meatloaf, spaghetti, turkey hot shots, and omelets. No hidden costs here. Even the drinks come with the meal. Real senior value, real portions, and real good food. An unbeatable combination from Joe's US 40 Grill, 1205 West North Street, across from Maiden Lane Church. And don't forget to call Joe's with help on all your holiday catering. Call 323-3383, where Joe knows food.
Here is your 1600 WULM weather forecast. Cloudy today, the high near 35. Cloudy early with some clearing expected late, the low 16 tonight. Tomorrow, a few clouds from time to time, the high 33. Tomorrow night, generally fair, the low 26. For your Sunday, cloudy with periods of rain, the high in the upper 40s and the lows in the upper 20s. Snow showers at times on Monday, the high in the low 30s. We are your radio station, the Talk of Springfield, 1600 WULM.
Back on Speak Out, our in-studio guest, Clark County Commissioner John Detrick. Again, the number is 399-9000, 866-405-1478. If you have questions, we'll make you the priority. If not, we'll continue to talk. John, we've talked about the sales tax, and you obviously thought it was necessary, the commission as a whole collectively.
It was a unanimous decision and it was nonpartisan. We had the support of every elected official, the 3 Republicans and the 8 Democrat elected officials.
The truth of the matter is the economic health of Clark County government would not be as good without it.
Oh, yes. We would be laying off 10 to 20 deputies and having major cutbacks in the services that people take for granted.
All right, I have a sheet of paper in front of me here called General Fund Beginning Appropriations, and obviously I always talk about budgets when it comes to government and school boards and things. You can make them as simple as you want to make them, or you can make them as complex as you want to make them. This kind of gets a little more complex because it's an analytical type tool, but bottom line is the county government budget's no different from a household budget. If you take in more than you spend, you're going to have a surplus, and if you spend as much as you take in, you're not going to have a surplus. Which is not too good because if something happens out of the ordinary, you can't deal with it. And if you spend more than you take in, you got a problem because you're obviously either bankrupt or you're dipping into your reserves or whatever. So that's the simple version of it. But if we look a little more complex here, how much money are we talking about? Because it's a little higher than the average household budget, obviously. And if you look at it, it doesn't take Einstein to figure out that a lot of the money goes to things that you really don't have a lot of control over.
Yes, we have what you call a lot of mandated services. The state legislature and even the federal government, to a lesser degree, comes up with things like they passed a law a while back that we had to keep track of all sexual predators. We now have one deputy sheriff who does nothing but monitor the sexual people who are convicted of sexual predatoring in Clark County. And we got to pay for that. If 2 people have a domestic fight, a few years ago they came up with the rule, somebody's going to jail. Used to be the police officer went out and he'd talk to him, get them settled down, and leave. Now he's got to take somebody down to the Kelly Hotel. Same thing with DUIs. We have to take them in. It's mandated services. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we're paying for that at the local level, and it comes out of the various incomes that we have. $37 million, to answer your question. Our budget is flat. In fact, our sales tax, which is the biggest percent of that $37 million, is a little over $13 million. And right now, for January, it was basically flat. We're optimistic that that was because of the weather or something, and it will continue. It'll start to grow as well, if nothing else, the priming of the pump by the federal government. You either get anywhere from $600 to $1,800 back, depending on the family makeup or dynamics. The theory on that is, for every dollar you and I get extra in our pocket, we're going to go spend $4 by the time it goes from the grocery store to the local Dairy Queen. It's called the riffle effect. And I think you'll see that really explode, but that won't show up in our sales tax. We lag what you call 2 months behind. When we get our February numbers, it'll actually be our December numbers because it takes 2 months for the state to get them back to us. But it's been that way for years, and I'm not complaining about it. I'm just telling you how we determine it. I look every month, and mainly I look and see how we do 2 months after Ritchie Brothers has a sale. And our sales tax usually takes a blip of anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000. For each of those, because of those road graders getting credit here in Clark County.
Now, the budget as it exists, like we said, there's a lot of things that you don't have a lot of control over because they're somewhat fixed in nature. There are other things that you don't have any control over, such as how much crime is committed and this, that, and the other, and so forth. But the budget process, do people actually have a say in this, or is this something that's kind of a closed thing?
It's closed. This is the only decision we have involving the other elected officials. Through our administrator, Darrell Howard, and assistant administrator, Nathan Kennedy, who are very, very capable. And I might point out here, county commission's budget has went down 15% from 2003-2008. We are the only department, other than the couple of our smaller ones, the treasurer and the recorder, are flat. But we've had some big jumps in all of our other departments, particularly the criminal justice area. The sheriff's budget is one of the ones that makes up our biggest chunk, and their increases are caused by mandated salaries that we have to give because they're negotiated through the union contracts we have, and all of us are affected by uncontrolled health care costs, which we work every year to contain. And try to get the best available deal. Right now, our health care is projected next year, based on past service, to go up 4 to 5%.
So, like any organization, you're struggling to live within your budget to make ends meet, that sort of thing. And really, there's not any particular way in the middle of the stream that you can get additional revenue.
No. We do have an ability for capital projects or major repair projects to borrow money, and our rate there is tied to whatever the prime is. We can get money right now for 2.5% for capital projects only. This is mandated by the state of Ohio, but you don't want to spend it if you don't have a revenue source to take care of it. Our indebtedness service is real heavy in the areas of utilities. We serve 12,000 people with water and sewer in Clark County. And that's one of the areas where we have some indebtedness, but it's covered by the revenue stream from the water and sewer projects.
Well, if you look at these fiscal year 2008 numbers, the sheriff, $12,565,919, and then debt service and building and grounds looks like they come in second and third respectively. Prosecutor, juvenile detention, those kind of things. Again, a lot of criminal justice activity there.
Yes, and for every dollar we take in, 65 cents of it goes into those areas. Maintaining the courthouse, maintaining the courts, maintaining the jail. It costs us $55 a day, and right now we have 270 people in the jail. You have a list there. Incidentally, that is public information. Anybody can call and find out if somebody is in the jail. Or you can even get computer readouts, or as you mentioned earlier, if you have computer access, which 50% of the population is, you can go and find out who is staying there at a particular time. We had an unusual circumstance yesterday. We pulled into our parking lot, and there was a really nice-looking car in one of the judge's parking spaces. It seems that the guy got inebriated the night before, drove over the curbs, tore off the entire front of a nice new Pontiac. He was from Toledo, Ohio, but he was really drunk. 2 deputies happened to be there in the parking lot at 2 o'clock in the morning and arrested him. And we were all till 2 o'clock in the afternoon figuring out where the car went. We didn't tow it. His friend came and got it, which saved him between $100 and $200, but he is now in the county hotel because of it being intoxicated in public.
And the ironic thing is he may go before the judge whose parking place he had.
No, because it was a probate judge.
Probate, okay. All right, well, that would be kind of interesting. All right, so what else you want to talk about on this general fund process here? I kind of like to talk about the budgeting process because I know the department heads have specifically been advised to try to keep the lid on it, so to speak.
Yes.
And, how does this actually work? What part of the year do you actually start getting input from department heads and then putting it together? When does it actually become official?
Well, that's a big question. It's a very good question, Larry. Every department head, let's take the treasurer, for instance. In mid-year, in June, he will submit what he thinks his budget will be. That's Steve Metzger, and he usually stays pretty close to the last year budget. We do have a situation where we do not recommend they hire if they don't have to. We haven't got a complete hiring freeze, but it's a suggested one. Mm-hmm. And let's say he's got an unusual process where he has to do extra tax bills. Well, then maybe he'll come in and want somebody part-time or full-time, and we will look at it as a given situation and try to keep him as close to the last year budget as possible. With that being the case, he submits his preliminary, and usually they're a little higher in all cases than what they're going to be in the end. We then, in November and December, bring them in. They sit down with Nathan Kennedy and Darrell Howard, and we look at their individual budgets. And this is the only control, if any, that we have over our elected officials, that we maintain that they live within the budget. And we come up with a very serious number for them and approve the budgets in mid-January after talking to every elected official.
I don't think we've had it happen here, but it has happened in some adjoining counties where judges have decided they needed more money than what was...
Specifically Miami County, which is a very sensibly run county. In fact,
judge there, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Went at war with the three commissioners, mm-hmm. and it was a pretty ugly situation. We usually work through our administrators, and the commissioners are not directly involved, but we do approve the final sign-off on the budget that's determined by the administrator.
And by law, I think there also has to be some public hearings, does there not?
Yes, and the public hearing is open to anybody that wants to sit there and hear the analysis of the budget.
And typically, you don't have a lot of people at those.
Nobody seems too interested in those. Occasionally, a political candidate will show up
mm-hmm.
so that they can see what's happening, so that they could maybe get some ammo in case they were trying to unseat.
All right, if we talk about reserves, at one time I know Clark County was in pretty good shape, but I think we've dipped into those a little bit, have we not?
That's another good question, Larry. There's a rule of thumb that if your budget's, say, $35 million, you will have rainy day reserves of $3.5 million. Clark County is close to the 10% formula. And when we get done with this tax increase going out, we hope to be at $3.5 million, okay. Which would be roughly the $35 million. We are an extremely well-managed county, and that's because we have a full-time staff of 2 administrators. For instance, our friends in Miami County, the commissioners do it, and they don't have an administrator. Mm-hmm. And they're a county of 110,000. They just haven't been able to find anybody, and they're eventually going to. But that if you've got good quality people, you're going to be able to live within your budget, and you're going to be able to grow your rainy day fund.
And what's the latest ticker on Darrell as far as the number of years that Darrell Howard has been there?
Well, we're going to put him on life support in 3 years to keep him around because he knows what to do, and he has a finessefulness. He has worked in this job for a number of years. He doesn't take sides in the DNR.
30, or what are we talking now?
We're talking over 40. He
over
was here
40?
Since the mid-'60s.
Has he been the administrator that long?
No, he was administrator in the early 70s since then.
So he's over. That's what I meant. He's over 30 on the administrator.
He has worked through Republican commissioners and Democratic commissioners. Clark County since 1992 has had a majority of Democratic commissioners, and I'm in the minority. But that doesn't enter into the local politics, and it shouldn't. It's to do what's best for our community. Mm-hmm. And Darrell Howard is very capable of pushing the right buttons to get our numbers together.
Should be able to benefit from some expertise of having been around, knowing people at the state level, I would think, too. That probably helps us a little bit.
We don't do that much at state level. It's up to us commissioners to do it. I personally, if I were going to make any suggestions in government, and I've told Darrell this, I would like to see us bring in some type of PR firm to get our case in Columbus, to get some extra money above what we have. We need $2 million right now to remodel the second floor of the jail so that we can move the administration to Springview. And if we do that, we'll be able to put 84 prisoners on the second floor.
All right, so bottom line is that you're talking about doing some things with the jail. We can get into that here in just a little bit. We do have a caller at this point, so as we promised, we'll make callers a priority. Let me make sure I get all the buttons pushed correctly here so I can get them up and running from the beginning, and I think we can do that. John, you there?
Yes.
All right, John, you have a commission or a question for John?
Yes, I do.
All right.
We're going to have they're going to have it on this March date. We're going to have
March 4th.
Yes, I know it's the 4th, but I'm saying on this date, we're going to have a vote in the city of Springfield taking over the responsibility for the park situation. You there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. You want to take over, the city wants to take over all the park expenses. Now, the thing about that is, you are connected with the city right now, correct?
There's a county-wide city park system, and it includes George Rogers, Estill Wenrick, and the county has about 15 acres of bike trail. The balance of about 20 miles of bike trail, are within the city of Springfield.
But you're legally connected with it, right?
We have a contract that will expire next year, and I think we're willing to work with them because this is one of the few areas, John, that we can serve the people of Clark County that aren't locked up in the jail, and it's a quality of life issue. And we do put 10% of their budget in. We put a little less than $300,000 into the budget.
The problem I see is the fact that they can actually rescind anything they have with you. There's a law. After the people vote, they can stay with you or get completely away from you. And then the big problem about that, in my estimation, is when I was talking to Dr. Bennett years ago, I come up there. I don't know if you did it, but in the past, I haven't been down there in years, but I used to pass the hat because of the fact that when the Snyder brothers gave the land to the city, there was a stipulation that no charges should be ever placed on the land.
What you're talking about, Jack, is an endowment. They gave the land and they gave $250,000. The $250,000 is probably for Snyder Park only. It doesn't apply to fees on the other facilities, although they do charge fees at the tennis court because, well, not anymore because they closed it, but the golf course they charge a fee.
As I say, when you have all these summer programs, they're not allowed to charge there, but they also charge you $7 to go in the art museum. Now, all this to me.
Now the art museum has nothing to do with the parks.
No, what I'm saying, it's on this same land that was given to the city.
I don't think the Snyders gave Cliff Park. I think that's an extra one.
I have a lawyer. I wish you'd ask Dave Hartley. He's an attorney to explain this situation to the people in the newspaper, or even better yet, on this show, and explain the complexity. I think that what Dr. Bennett told me is that the family could actually get the land back if they violated it. Now, that to me is a very upsetting.
Well, Jack, I think
it would be legal as far as the transfer, but what about the people who the sentence to them could cause trouble, I would think.
I think that's been discussed a number of times, and I agree with you that it would be nice to have the wherewithal to answer all of the questions that surround it. However, law is subject to interpretation, and that which was given is also subject to interpretation, and there are going to be people on both sides of the fence there, Jack. Some are going to be on your side and say, hey, you're not allowed to charge, and the other people are going to say, no, that's not what the intent of that was.
Well, I want to interject one thing here. You know that the commissioners are the trustees of Memorial Hall. Now,
not anymore. We sold it.
I've said it many, many times. It cannot be sold without a vote of the people. because my ancestors, my relatives, include John Detrick's relatives, all these people, and your relatives too, I'm sure, contributed to that when they built that. And it was a memorial for the pioneers, for the soldiers and sailors, not of World War One, but actually all that who had served before, including the American Revolution, because most of these people had relatives who served in the American Revolution. Now, they tried to sell it, and they found out that they can't sell it unless you get a vote of the people. That's why I would think it'd be a good idea if we had attorneys look into this, because the mayor he's only been around here since the late 60s, and he doesn't know this stuff. And a lot of people don't even know their ancestry.
Well, that would, Jack, what you're describing would be a situation for Jerry Strasdis and his staff, because it is a city issue, and this is a city level levy. It involves the 60,000 people that are citizens of the city of Springfield, not the other 80,000 in the county.
You know, we're going to try to have somebody on about this specific levy,
well,
Jack.
Have the mayor. I think the best man to have on there, after all, he's now the elected mayor, and he's the chief officer of the city of Springfield.
Well, either him or Kevin O'Neill, because Kevin's kind of the one that proposed this thing that got it on the ballot. But you know, the problem that a lot of people are having with it is
both. I like lively discussions. Have them both.
There are more people from the county using the parks than the city.
Well, that's true. And what I'm saying is have both on.
But the angle is some people...
Have the mayor and the assistant mayor on.
The angle is some people are saying that, you know, the money that would be generated from the levy would just be for maintenance of the parks, which are actually owned by the city, and they sign a contract with National Trail to run them.
Well, the thing is, you also got a thing where that the expense to those senior citizens who have been paying taxes for, let's say, anywhere 40, 50, 60, 70 years. I actually know somebody's paying it longer than that. But the thing is...
his name Jack?
That's the point. The elderly people are being hit hard, and we don't go down there, and we don't use the track. We don't play golf anymore. We don't get down there and play tennis. And I did all those things before, but I'm of an age now that you don't do that. Now, there's thousands and thousands. About 20% of the population is senior citizens here, and nobody's given consideration to senior citizens.
Well, you know, obviously there's going to be a thing on the ballot, and people are going to say yay or nay. So if you think it's not right, vote no.
Get Copeland and O'Neill both on at one time, and I think that would be very helpful and especially informative so people, including myself, can make a final decision how we're going to vote. Okay?
Okay.
All right, Jack. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, that's Jack. And if you'd like to give us a call, 399-9000, 866-405-1478. Again, 399-9000, 866-405-1478. That's kind of why it's on the ballot. I mean, some people are going to say yay and some are going to say nay. And, you know, I've tried to kind of present the position of some people that I know that are not supporting it because they don't think it's right for the city to, you know, come up with the money when it's used by everybody. And, you know, there are going to be others that say, hey, it's no big deal. We got to maintain our parks no matter what. So, and we're going to talk about that. I think the date is March the 1st, if I remember correctly. We're going to have somebody on. We don't know exactly who yet because we have not extended the official invitation, but we'll get somebody on to talk about it and present the facts and go from there. So much for that. Let's talk about the jail. You mentioned that you're trying to get some money to remodel the second floor. We've had Sheriff Kelly on. Is there any thought of making the Springview Center the headquarters for the Sheriff's Department?
Oh, yes, that's where they would go to. They would still have to have a presence downtown because that's where the jail is and that's where the workforce is. But to answer your question, that would be the second phase of the $2 million.
So the question is, would there be a limited office area in the existing jail now?
Yes, that is correct.
And then the bulk of the area that's now occupied on the second floor for offices would be converted to actual cells?
Yes, and 84 beds would be made there.
And then what would happen to the pods that are underneath that originally were going to be
I would hope we
temporary?
could retain them because we need them
Are those
as
been
a backup.
purchased at this point, right?
Oh, yeah, we purchased them, and they're being utilized on a year-to-year basis with a permit from the state. Actually, the prisoners prefer, and they volunteer to go down there because there's more activity, and even in the wintertime.
I can see you walking through the garage. Is that what you're referring to?
I drive through the garage
You drive
occasionally.
through the garage occasionally. Okay. All right. So they're still using the pods underneath, and there has been some talk. But I guess the big deal right now is not so much getting people to agree that it's the right thing to do, but finding the money to do it.
That's correct.
Okay, and while we're on the jail, we might as well hit these other things here. I know you brought me a jail count overview, and apparently a young lady by the name of Gloria Minette, who's known as Gay, provides a number of people with this jail count overview.
That's correct.
It's basically public information, obviously. The commissioners get a copy. Who else gets this on a regular basis? The judges? Or
Judges, so they can see what their caseload is, if they got 55 in the jail or they got 25 in the
And
jail.
essentially what it is, it's a list of the sentenced inmates by each particular judge and court. How many are awaiting transportation to facilities,
Other
of the
facilities.
state and otherwise, and so forth. And of course, this is something else that you don't have any control over, but it's entirely possible. And I went by on the corner of Lime and McCrite this morning. Springfield police have something major going on there, apparently. I don't know whether it was a robbery or what. Didn't have time to verify it before I came, but plethora of activities, including some news vans and what have you, and about 3 or 4 patrol
I went through there and
cars.
didn't pay any attention.
Well, you missed it because I'm sure they were still there, but be anxious to see what that was all about. But my point is that the Highway Patrol can stop somebody out on Interstate 70 within the jurisdiction of Clark County, and
Right.
if those people need to be incarcerated, they'll go to the Clark County
They'll
jail.
go to the Clark County jail.
And if they stop somebody on a routine traffic stop and they find out the guy has a warrant from Warren County and it's within the pickup radius and what have you, and then
Right.
next thing you know, they're in the Clark County jail, that's an expense that we incur only because we happen to be at the wrong place at the right time.
Well, being along Interstate 70, we incur that a lot.
Yeah.
The upside to that is if it's somebody stopped and drugs are involved,
We would
the
get
car
money.
would come to us and any valuables that happen to be in it. That doesn't help our budget a lot. There's not as much as people think. But
So you're not driving a confiscated Rolls Royce or anything at this
no,
point?
no, I wouldn't do it anyway.
All right. So, and how do you utilize this jail count overview sheet? I'm sure you look at it. I'm sure you don't.
You just
study
look at it
but,
to see why they're in there, if they're getting transferred, say, to Lucasville, or they're getting transferred to London. Can we get them out quicker after the sentence? And part of the paperwork's held up because the state doesn't process
And
it.
if it's overcrowding situations, who actually makes decisions on that? Does Gene Kelly have the authority to release someone, or is that
No,
have to be
the
by
sheriff
permission of the
maintains
judge?
the jail, and each individual judge will determine that. And the judges work with us. Even when we have a long weekend, the judges come in on Saturday and do arraigning, or even on a Monday. Like this Monday's a holiday, and usually first of the month your census goes up because people have more money. And on a long weekend, if you want to see something depressing, I invite you to walk on through the second or the third floor on a Monday when there's anywhere from 50 to 75 people out in the halls waiting to appear before judges. It's open to the public. It's a sociological phenomena.
You're talking about the courts.
The
with
courts,
alcohol.
yes.
Sure.
Second
yeah.
of 50 East Columbia
Because
Street.
of the weekend situation
Right.
and the pileup of arraignments and what have you.
That's before the municipal court
Right,
judges,
and the
not
judges,
common pleas.
the judges actually take turns with the arraignments. I'm not sure how long a period. I used to know that. I think they take a couple of weeks at a
Yes,
time or
they
whatever,
do.
and they rotate through that. The other thing I wanted to talk about with regard to the jail situation is that there are more female prisoners now than there used to be, and our juvenile crime, I saw a statistic on that where certain aspects of it's actually down, but I think overall we're having more juvenile cases today than we've had before.
Unfortunately, the two fastest growing areas there's 3 areas of criminal justice. 1, males, 2, females, and 3, juveniles. Females are growing faster and being incarcerated than any other of the two other groups. Possibly more because of drugs and our changing society. The second fastest growing group is unfortunately juvenile, which doesn't appear on there. We've got 46 or 48 beds over there for Clark Countyans to be incarcerated in the juvenile center above the 270 capacity in the adult area.
And obviously one might think if we do a good job with juvenile justice, perhaps we can keep some of those people out of the adult system.
Yes, we're very fortunate to have Judge Monin and his staff over there. They do a lot of preventive maintenance and turn around some very negative people.
All right, we're going to pause for another commercial break. We'll be back with your county commissioner in mind, John Detrick, following these important words when Speak Out continues.
Get ready to be entertained at the Dwight Christopher CD release concert featuring the Blackwoods, Saturday, March 1st at 7 p.m. at the Maiden Lane Church of God, 1201 Maiden Lane in Springfield. Hear local legend Dwight Christopher perform songs off his new CD, There Is a Hope, which features the Blackwoods. Then watch and listen as the Blackwoods take the stage. Tickets are only $10 and proceeds go to Urban Light Ministries. Hear some great music and help a worthwhile local organization. Tickets are available at Maiden Lane Church of God and Urban Light Ministries, or call 831-1639. Local musician and Cashbox Top 20 recording artist Dwight Christopher launches his new CD, There Is a Hope, and perform songs from the album. Then hear the Blackwoods, who accompany Dwight on the CD. The Blackwoods, winner of 8 Grammys, 27 Dove Awards, former backup singers for Elvis Presley, backing up Dwight Christopher on his new album and singing with Dwight in concert. One night only, March 1st at the Maiden Lane Church of God in Springfield. Tickets are only $10. Call 831-1639. Get your tickets now.
Every day, Joe US 40 Grill rolls out the blue carpet to our senior guests between 4 and 5 p.m. Seniors can enjoy a choice of 4 fantastic meals for just $6.29. The choices are from our regular menu and include real portions of great comfort food such as meatloaf, spaghetti, turkey hot shots, and omelets. No hidden costs here. Even the drinks come with the meal. Real senior value, real portions, and real good food. An unbeatable combination from Joe's US 40 Grill, 1205 West North Street, across from Maiden Lane Church. And don't forget to call Joe's with help on all your holiday catering. Call 323-3383, where Joe knows food.
Hi, this message is for ex-offenders. Many community partners have come together to form Clark County Family Connections. It's easy to get started on the right path toward family unification and job placement. Just make contact. If you're currently incarcerated, check with your inside parole officer or social worker for the next scheduled Clark County Family Connections intake. If you've already been released or would like more information, please call 327-1979 or 327-1976.
Have you ever thought about going to church on Saturday night? There's a place that meets for church every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Great music, encouraging people, messages of hope, and great fun for children up through the 5th grade. Everyone is welcome anytime. It's at Fellowship Church, located directly across the street from the Sears store in the Upper Valley Mall in Springfield. Very casual, so come as you are. And if you need to come late or leave early, that's no problem. All of this happens on a Saturday, and it's been going on for 5 years. Not a gimmick or experiment, it's a real church service without all the religious words and traditions. Just a place to learn about God and His love for all of us and to meet people who are real. The Saturday evening service at Fellowship Church at 6:30 p.m., a place for caring, growing, life coaching, and marriage mentoring. It's a welcoming, no-pressure, family-friendly place. Fellowship Church, 2301 Valley Loop Drive, 322-5381.
Here is your 1600 WULM weather forecast. Cloudy today, the high near 35. Cloudy early with some clearing expected late, the low 16 tonight. Tomorrow, a few clouds from time to time, the high 33. Tomorrow night, generally fair, the low 26. For your Sunday, cloudy with periods of rain, the high in the upper 40s and the lows in the upper 20s. Snow showers at times on Monday, the high in the low 30s. We are your radio station, the Talk of Springfield, 1600 WULM.
All right, back on Speak Out, a number of things to cover, not much time to do it, so we're going to keep moving along here. 399-9000 or 866-405-1478. We have surpassed the 11:15 deadline imposed by Commissioner Detrick for discussion of the big real estate tax thing. Keep in mind he's not directly involved, but he has some input, obviously, in terms of some ideas and some things he can tell you and what have you. And I guess we'll just start with that. Real estate taxes. People got their tax duplicates here recently. Some of them were somewhat shocked, particularly the commercial people.
Yes, commercial area had its first reevaluation, and a company was hired by the auditor, and they used some formulas that, shall we say, were questionable. And George Sodders has addressed this. He's continuing to address it, and you can call his office, and they will work with you. As I say, most of it was in the commercial area, and you had till Friday afternoon to go directly to them. Your next step would be to go to the Board of Revisions, and you've got till the end of March to appeal your taxes, and you would appear before the treasurer, the auditor, and the president of the Clark County Commission, which is Roger Tackett, and they will review your situation, and you'll have an opportunity to present comparable taxes, if you have an appraisal done by a local bank, or not local bank, be anybody, and it's considerably lower, I would suggest you do look into getting an appearance before the Board of Revision. They're nice gentlemen. They will hear your case, and they hear hundreds of cases every year. It'll probably be a little more this year. We went from 500 complaints to 1,000, and most of those were in the commercial area. And I might say I've had 2 calls from commercial areas. The Masonic Temple, for instance, I'll mention them because they're non-political, or they're non-individuals, and they were very happy with the service that the auditor's office gave them. I ran into somebody over at Wittenberg, and he says that they really took care of me. Thank you.
Well, I think one of the things we ought to say here is don't be afraid to do it, because if you think there's any possibility whatsoever that there needs to be an adjustment in your favor, you should do it, because if you don't do it, you got nobody to blame but yourself.
It's your democratic right, and they will treat you good over there. It's a paid professional staff that George Sodders has, of about 35 people, and they'll handle the process, and then you'll appear before, as I said, the Board of Revision. It takes 15 or 20 minutes of your time to go in there. They'll schedule an appointment for you, and then they'll let you know a week or so later what the results are. But they are very fair, and they will strive to address your concerns. So use your democratic office. And a lot of you people, I suggest, if you have a mortgage, you don't know what your taxes are. But in about a month or two, you're going to get a bill, and it's going to be an increase in your monthly payment, and it could be because of your real estate taxes. So if you're in doubt and you have a mortgage and don't get a yearly tax bill or a 6-month tax bill, I suggest you contact them and see whether you've went up or down.
All right, let's talk about applications. Some people are under the impression that if you buy a house, you're automatically going to qualify for reductions, and that's not necessarily true. I'm talking about homestead and some of those kind of things.
Right. First, you have to live in the house. And here is a tip for you. We just got last year, if you were age 65 and you owned your own house, you would be eligible, because we were using tobacco tax money through the state level to offset so that property taxes would stay in the local, every one of our 88 counties. You're given a $400 deduction. Now, if you're turning 65 this year, you can pick up the application form from the auditor's office and file, and it will reflect in your next year's property taxes.
Okay.
So there's a savings for you, and this is handled through George Sodders' department.
And again, if you have a question about taxes or how any of the homestead exemption and those kinds of things work, we encourage you to contact the auditor's office, because they are public servants. They're there to help you, and they will be glad to do so. And if you call the treasurer's office or the commission office or something like that by mistake, those people won't bite your head off. They'll refer you to the right department.
That's correct. I might emphasize here that the auditor's office is the one that does the appraisal. The treasurer's office sends out the bills as the numbers are given to them by the appraisal firm. And the appraisal firm is working diligently through George and Lynn Marshall to address any concerns that a number of people have because of the way the appraisal was done. The county commissioners will help you go to those offices. We do not determine those appraisals, and we have nothing whatsoever to do with it, as do none of the other elected officials.
Mm-hmm. And I know that the school district treasurers have been a little concerned about the auditor's office and getting information in timely fashion and this, that, and the other. And I know that George has hired Dave Crew, who's a CPA, to come in and kind of help out and straighten things out and what have you and expedite service.
That is correct. Dave joined our staff from another local accounting firm. He's a local individual, educated here, been here all of his life, and he is making a major difference over there, along with Bob Vanderhorst.
Okay, Board of Elections no longer down in the Garfield building. In fact, the Garfield building has now been purchased, as I understand it, by the Educational Services Commission.
By the Clark County Educational Commission or Educational Board. They have moved from Kissel building, where they've been for about 3 or 4 years, and they've converted this into a very nice facility for themselves.
So the Board of Elections is now out at East at Springview.
Yes. And, Board of Elections is out
there. New staff
there.
as far as the director and the assistant director, but those folks are busy getting under wraps with what's going on and going through the first election cycle.
You really know what's going on, don't you?
Sure I do.
You're
very
informed,
you can take my place
intelligent.
and I can take your place. So at any rate, but let's talk about the Board of Elections and in specific.
You would probably take a pay cut, Larry.
I probably would, yes, because I get millions for doing the show. But let's talk about the absentee ballot process, because that's very important. People like you who voted for yourself know the absentee ballot, and you're assured of a re-election at this juncture. But go ahead.
Okay, absentee ballot.
Actually, you're not, because this is the primary, and you have to be elected in the fall, right?
Well, I'll re-vote for myself in the fall.
Okay. So I guess I was going to say if you live long enough, then you'll be okay. But if you don't, it wouldn't make a difference anyway.
That's correct.
Okay.
My heirs will have to worry about it. But absentee ballots, it's open to anybody. You can walk into the Board of Elections, which is directly across the street from the cinema, and there's red signs out there pointing you right up to their area. It is handicap accessible. It's a nice new facility. It meets all the state standards, and we are using the ballots that are acceptable from Secretary of State Jennifer Bruner.
And that has changed as far as the absentee ballot, because it used to be you had to have certain criteria that you met in order to qualify for absentee voting.
That is correct. All you need is the ability to read, and they'll give you a dark lead pen, and you just fill in the circle of who you want to vote for. And the absentee ballot at this point, I might caution you, there's about 18,000 registered Democrats. There's about 16,500 registered Republicans. They are the main reason you would show up to vote in the primary. There's 60,000 of you out there that choose to remain independent, and that's fine. Now, you can come in and declare one party or the other from being an independent, and I don't think we'll have any ground swelling there.
But while we're talking about that, we might as well further educate them. If you're a Democrat, you have to ask for a Democratic ballot. And a Republican ballot. If you're an independent, you'll get a ballot that only will have issues on it.
Right. Or you can go in and change parties.
Sure.
I could go, say my cousin's running as a Democrat, and I want to make sure he gets in. I could change parties and vote for him.
Then you could have voted
and then
for
I
yourself,
can go.
though.
Well, that's true. But I've already voted. I'm just giving myself as an example.
All right.
But they're very user-friendly. And let's say you're in a nursing home. We have the ability to mail you your ballot and fill it out. So you've got those options if you don't want to go to the polling place. We encourage you to go to the polling place. In fact, I got my little sticker, which I'm going to wear on March 4th, that I voted.
Yeah, and there are people who, used to say, hey, I'm going to be out of town or whatever, and sometimes they were telling the truth, sometimes they weren't.
Doesn't matter
But
anymore.
It doesn't matter.
They do
That's
not
the
want. They don't ask you why you're there. I'm there for the convenience of it, because I can just walk in and there's not the crowds, although the primaries...
I bet you did that before you had your thank you signs printed, right? Just to assure that you'd be okay. All right, moving on. If you have questions about voting, just call the Board of Elections. They'll be glad to help you. Like I said, a new director, new assistant director, but they're getting inundated as we speak. In fact, they're probably working this morning because it's close to elections. I usually are in there on Saturdays doing some things and training poll workers and what have you. So let's jump around a little bit here and talk about affordable housing. There was an article printed here a while back in the Dispatch. This was August the 24th of 2006. But as far as Springfield goes, we rank pretty well with regard to affordable housing.
Okay, Clark County this is another reason to live here. We have very affordable housing. Route 68 is kind of the dividing line. Houses west of there are kind of tied into the Dayton market, and Springfield
That's where
on
the
east.
commissioners live, some of them anyway.
Yeah, one of them.
One of them, yeah.
We won't mention who.
Okay.
But our housing average home price was $86,000. That's good if you're looking for a house. That's bad if you're selling a house. I would rather be somewhere in the middle, but we are at the low end as far as we're one of the lower median price house purchases. But that gives you a chance to come here. We have good communities, and you can pick and choose from within the communities where you want to live. But that's the average price of all houses. I'd like to see that start to climb. That means we're a healthy economy. And I think by next year this time, when we get those 7,000 jobs perking that I mentioned earlier, you'll start to see an increase in property values again. All over the country, this is the case. If you bought a house in Las Vegas 5 years ago, it's 40% less in value today. We're fairly stable here as opposed to the coast, so to speak, or the boom areas. Florida property values have dropped, and their taxes have dropped considerably because of it. Or they've dropped, not considerably, 5-10%. But here, we've got some good affordable housing. It's a good place to live, and you can put a roof over your head at a very reasonable figure.
Okay, so housing market, both good and bad. Good if you're a buyer, bad if you're a seller. But that's not totally true either, because people have been able to sell real estate for profit here in Clark County.
Yes, and the realtors are down a little bit. Right now, I might add, if you're into the consumer area, it's a good time to refinance because you can get under 6% in a lot of places. And if you're over 7...
Just visited one this week, 4.75.
You are kidding.
No.
The best I'd heard was 3.35.
Well, that's me. See, I'm a negotiator. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. One other thing coming up here, the Eastern Edge Public Planning Workshop. It's going to help shape the future of the East National Road US 40 area. And that's going to be on February the 26th and February the 28th. So if you would, tell us a little bit about that. Also at the Springview Government Center.
Okay. This is open to the public from 1 to 3 on February 26th and 6 to 8 on February 28th. There'll be light refreshments at the Springview Government Center. They are working on that corridor. That's probably the next boom area in Clark County, and it's a mix of Springfield Township and City of Springfield. The road is owned by the City of Springfield, and they maintain it. All of the contiguous properties pay taxes to both the township, Springfield Township, and the city. It's a mix, and it's a good example through a CETA agreement of government cooperation to basically Titus Road. If you wonder where it stops, actually it goes a block beyond Titus Road, but that's probably the best geographic.
So it used to be when you came in the big hill there and you saw a community hospital over on your left in the sky view, that was still county, but now, the city has edged on out there. And so Walmart is actually in the city. They're
Walmart's in the city, and there's some talk down the road of other things popping up out there. The Next Edge Tech Park, as I said earlier, is going to have 500 jobs. You've got the Mills Morgan building, which Q-Base is moving into. Q-Base is right now in downtown Springfield with 70 employees. They are an on-time informational supplier to the healthcare industry. Say I've got a lump on my shoulder, the doctor can contact Q-Base, and they will do research and determine, based on pictures and the symptoms of the lump on my shoulder, what's wrong with me.
I did that, but they told me the only thing they could do for me, it turned out to be my head.
Your terminal is what you're saying.
I had a lump on my shoulder and it was my head. So.
Well, look at it this way. We're all going to die sooner or later. I just want to die later with a good quality of health.
That's right.
Anyway, this is the East Edge Planning Workshop. It's at the Springview Center, and it is open to the public.
You're saying the 26th and the 28th?
That's correct.
Okay, well, the 26th is a Tuesday, according to my calendar here. The 28th is a Thursday.
Okay, and the 26th is 1 to 3. And the other one, on the 28th is 6 to 8, and if you want information, call 324-7372.
All right, now who actually is putting that on, do you know?
Thea Walsh and Shane Farnsworth. Thea
Planning?
is the regional highway person, and Shane is the director of Clark County Planning.
Okay. All right, I see Matt Perrell looks like there in one of the pictures.
Yes, Matt Perrell is from the state. He's a county boy who's done well, and he works up in Sydney, but
Good
he
man.
helps on our road projects here.
Good man, good family.
Yes.
Yep.
Happened to
Okay.
be in baseball, didn't they?
Yes, they did. And that's kind of how I got to know him. See, another thing I want to talk about, businesses in Clark County that are adding jobs and considering adding jobs. There's quite a list here, which is kind of interesting. And I'll let you go through some of those. You probably don't need to mention all of them, although if you want to, you're welcome. But, there's a lot of activity going on, folks, in Clark County that you just wouldn't think about.
In front of you, you have about an hour speech. I condense it down for different ones. If somebody wants to get a quick synopsis of Clark County, First Thursday Live, it's March the 6th. It's 7:30 at the Art Museum. It costs you $5. There's going to be 5 speakers. I'm one of them, and I'm going to show you the main areas of Clark County growth. We're going to start with manufacturing. We're going to go to farming. We're going to go to technology, and we're going to go military, and cover briefly all of those. But that's a quick review of the 7,000 jobs that are coming, and I'm just going to touch lightly on them. There's going to be other speakers there. You can call the Chamber of Commerce for the agenda, but you might, if you're really interested in learning about civic affairs, it's open to the public. There'll be 100 to 150 people present, and you get a light breakfast sponsored by Joe's Grill.
Who are some of the other speakers?
I can't remember.
Can't remember? Okay.
That's why I'm referring you to the Chamber of Commerce. They're the ones that put it on.
I'll give them a call.
Their phone number is 3257621. And I do know they were very interesting speakers. They gave them to me quickly over the phone. I was in my car riding around testing my cell phone, Larry.
I see. John and I have a long-standing joke about cell phones. It seemed like for a long time there, every time we saw each other, we were both on a cell phone. And I used to kid him about using his personal cell phone versus his county cell phone and so forth. But at any rate, cell phones are kind of important, obviously.
For this job, I put 5,000 minutes on my cell phone.
In fact, it's kind of funny because I always, since I produce this show as well as host it, I always do some follow-up to confirm that the guest is going to be there, of course. And I was kind of busy professionally this week, so I didn't have a chance to make the follow-up call when I normally do. So I called you yesterday morning, but I was in the process of doing something else, actually on hold on another phone call, and left a voicemail message. And by the time I had gotten off of my phone call, I knew somebody was calling, but I figured it was probably you, but I couldn't get off the phone in order to get it. And it was you calling back, leaving me a voicemail. So voicemail is very important too. We didn't actually talk to each other,
No,
but we accomplished what we needed to accomplish.
And we were both conducting business on other phones.
That's right.
At the same, I was in my office, and
well, I tell the story, and this is the true story of when I was in my office doing things and trying to get things done, and in a hurry because I had to go to a meeting, and I was actually on my office phone. I had picked up the cradle to the fax because I was able to utilize that for another phone while I was on hold on the office phone. And in the meantime, my pager went off. Okay, so I decided I would clear the page because I'd been on hold too long. So I called, and in the process of thinking and not really focusing on what I was doing, I called my cell phone number instead of my pager number. So my cell phone rings, of course. So I answer my cell phone, and nobody talks. So I hang up, and I'm thinking, well, hell, if they're not going to talk, I'm not going to waste my time. Then it kind of ticked me off, like, who would call me and waste my time? And I found out it was me calling myself. So I just hung up everything and sat back and said it's time to take a deep breath and regroup.
well, I find that when I'm taking calls in the car, I have to write something down because 3 minutes later, I'm forgetting who called me, and I have to call them back.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that I do. One of the kids was with me the other day, and I was dictating a message, and they said, "Are you talking to yourself?" And I said, "Yes, I actually called my office phone and left myself a message because that way I don't have to write it down, so it's safer,
Right.
and I have the information that I need." So anyway, some important notes for you out there, folks, if you want to be just like John and me. If you don't take our advice because that's not a bad thing either. With regard to the complexity of the commission, we have 2 Democrats and a Republican. Like you say, that doesn't really play into politics a whole lot at the commission level as far as conducting business, except at election time. And a lot of times people are unopposed, like yourself in this particular election. the cooperation of the commissioners. You obviously are three different people. You bring three different trains of thoughts to the commission. I think they're all important. They're all significant. How do you think the commissioners are cooperating at this point to work toward the goals of the citizens of Clark County?
Well, we're all dedicated to bringing jobs here. We agree between 90 to 95% of the time. There aren't a lot of split votes. When they are, they usually fall along labor lines. Beyond that, in the area of economic development, we're always on the same page.
So, at first, it seemed as though Commissioner Hartley was going to be a little cantankerous and what have you, but we haven't really heard a whole lot about that lately either. I think he's kind of settled in, and, Dave is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, he has his viewpoints, and he has a right to, voice them. Obviously, he was elected.
Dave came from an environment where he had 28 years in Columbus. And in Columbus and Washington, I think there's more of a polarization. Over here, we really try to work well with both sides of the aisle, and it's what's best for Clark County. The DNR doesn't matter once you're in office.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to take our final break, and we have some important announcements we'd like for you to listen to, and we'll return with Commissioner John Detrick when Speak Out continues following these important announcements.
Every day, Joe US 40 Grill rolls out the blue carpet to our senior guests between 4 and 5 p.m. Seniors can enjoy a choice of 4 fantastic meals for just $6.29. The choices are from our regular menu and include real portions of great comfort food such as meatloaf, spaghetti, turkey hot shots, and omelets. No hidden costs here. Even the drinks come with the meal. Real senior value, real portions, and real good food. An unbeatable combination from Joe's US 40 Grill, 1205 West North Street, across from Maiden Lane Church. And don't forget to call Joe's with help on all your holiday catering. Call 323-3383, where Joe knows food.
Have you ever thought about going to church on Saturday night? There's a place that meets for church every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Great music, encouraging people, messages of hope, and great fun for children up through the 5th grade. Everyone is welcome anytime. It's at Fellowship Church, located directly across the street from the Sears store in the Upper Valley Mall in Springfield. Very casual, so come as you are. And if you need to come late or leave early, that's no problem. All of this happens on a Saturday, and it's been going on for 5 years. Not a gimmick or experiment, it's a real church service without all the religious words and traditions. Just a place to learn about God and His love for all of us and to meet people who are real. The Saturday evening service at Fellowship Church at 6:30 p.m., a place for caring, growing, life coaching, and marriage mentoring. It's a welcoming, no-pressure, family-friendly place. Fellowship Church, 2301 Valley Loop Drive, 322-5381.
Childhood lead poisoning remains a major environmental health problem in the United States. Even children who appear healthy can have dangerous levels of lead in their bodies. People can get lead in their body if they put their hands or other objects covered with lead dust in their mouths, eat paint chips or soil that contains lead, breathe in lead dust, especially during renovations that disturb painted surfaces. For more information, contact the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency at www.epa.gov/lead.
Here is your 1600 WULM weather forecast. Cloudy today, the high near 35. Cloudy early with some clearing expected late, the low 16 tonight. Tomorrow, a few clouds from time to time, the high 33. Tomorrow night, generally fair, the low 26. For your Sunday, cloudy with periods of rain, the high in the upper 40s and the lows in the upper 20s. Snow showers at times on Monday, the high in the low 30s. We are your radio station, the Talk of Springfield, 1600 WULM.
All right, back to conclude our Saturday, February the 16th, 2008 edition of Speak Out. Our guest in studio, John Detrick, Clark County Commissioner. And John's very busy, not only as a commissioner, but also as a grandfather and a father and a husband and what have you, and that's a good deal. Keeps you young and active, obviously.
Yes, it does.
Let's talk about a mutual friend. First of all, some people have been asking me about Mary Haynes. Mary, I found out, is in Essex. In fact, I went out to see her a couple of Saturdays ago, and not doing extremely well. But Mary's a good gal, and we wish her well. We hope that she has a speedy recovery. Mary's getting up there. I mean, she's got some age on her, obviously, and things are taking a toll. But she's still hanging in there, bless her heart. And wanted to say hello to her this morning. And anybody wants to send her a card, she's at Essex on Home Road. So Mary Haynes, people wanting to know about her, there's an update on that. Also want to say hello to the gang at the Enid Eagles who are listening. Terry O'Brien, Donnie and Terry. Donnie's coined a phrase called put a little spice in your life. He thinks I had to use that, so I've used it occasionally here. Irma and Jim Roush, Dan and Barbara Powers, Jack Mullins, Marvin Clem and Ann, and Janet and John, all listeners from the Enid Eagles. And I think Pat Williams and his lovely wife Janet may be listening from Florida. So, because we're on the internet, so we're not only here in Springfield, but we're global as well. We did some neat things with that. We had a lady who was doing dulcimer music here a couple of years ago at Christmas, and her grandson was stationed in Iraq, and he got to hear his grandmother as a result of that. So some rather neat things, and we've had some guests on the show whose spouses have been out of town on business, and they've been able to tune in as well. So and our internet address is www.1600wulm.net. There's also a picture of me on there, so if you're going to be a future guest, and you want to know what I look like so you won't be shocked when you first get here, then you can tune in there and maybe you won't get totally scared. But all you do is dial up the internet, www.1600wulm.net, and then there's a little red button that says on air, and you can click on that and you get a live feed. It's a little delayed, maybe about 5-6 seconds because of technology, but it comes out over the air live just like it does on the radio. And if you are out of our range, like in Alaska or wherever the case may be, and want to listen, you can do so by way of the internet. John, anything you want to bring up here at the end?
Well, Clark County is a good place to live. We got a lot going for us. We have one of the most giving societies in the state of Ohio. We're 5th best in our philanthropic area. We've got a lot of culture here. We got one of the best art museums in the country. We've got one of the best symphony orchestras. Our Summer Arts Festival is on over 40 years running, and it's free entertainment. There's a lot to be said for this community. 2 wonderful YMCAs, 2 great cities, New Carlisle and Springfield. And we have one of the best fairs in the United States. They have a higher rate of animal sold than any
Speaking
other.
of that, any talk lately about moving the fairgrounds? And at one time there was some talk about maybe moving it because thought might use that particular area for an industrial park, but
no, that's completely
it's actually a pretty
gone.
good location for a fairgrounds.
Yes, central location. There's something going on out there every weekend, and the fair did almost 100,000 people this year during Fair Week, but that's just one little phase. The agricultural community is very deep in this county, and our 4-H being founded here, we've got one of the largest participations in the state of Ohio in 4-H projects. Just a lot going in that area. It's all positive, and we're starting to experience some job growth, which I think will lead to population coming back, and good schools. We've got a lot going there.
All right, so if I'm sitting here across from your desk, Commissioner Detrick, and you're trying to court me to move my business to Clark County or locate my business in Clark County, and I said to you, what is the number one thing that you can offer here in Clark County that I can't get anywhere else? Because I can get a lot of these other things you're talking about at other places, and I'm not an easy sell, so you got to try to convince me with kind of one thing as to the main reason why I should locate here. What makes Clark County unique?
I'm going to say 2 things. One, we've got the best water supply in the world. And after you've seen some of these droughts, Atlanta, Georgia had to send 300 tankers a day to northern Florida to get them water so they could take care of their citizenry. We've got our water from underground wells. It's protected water. You don't get it from the Ohio River. You don't get it from Lake Erie, and you don't get it from Hoover Reservoir. So that's number one. And number 2 is we're 1 day's drive time from over half the population of Canada and the United States. So our central location, if you're in distribution, would be good. And the third thing, you said one. A third one would be affordable living with a good labor force.
All right, but what's the number one? Because that's what I asked you. You cheated here at been a typical politician, snuck in 2, and then tried to come up with 3. But if I said the most unique, what would you come up with?
are the most unique. Having come from the employment sector, you want to make sure you have employees. So it's the workforce that we could offer you.
The people. I would
Yes.
tend to agree with that. I think the people of Clark County are what makes Clark County unique because, there are people everywhere, obviously, but nobody can coin the people that we have here. And, I know other communities are proud of their communities as well. And I'm not to say that we're the only good place to live because I don't think that's the case, but it is a good place to live. And that's one of the reasons why I've stayed. To the chagrin of many. I'm sure there would be many that would like to see me leave, but so far it has not happened. But any rate, interesting show as always. I know one of the things that you have done in the past on shows and that, you've done with your speaking engagements is to take people on a tour of Clark County. You do that by the clock or the world, or how is it that you do that? Because I know you go around.
I can do it either way. If anybody wants a tour or wants to follow me for a day or half day, 521-2003. I'll work you into the schedule, and you can pick the day. I'd like it to be Tuesday so you can see government in action and then show you some of our facilities. Or I start with a map of Clark County starting 12 o'clock at International Harvester and work all the way around to Northampton, which is about 11 o'clock.
You got to be careful when you're going through Northampton, or so the rumor. So. All right, John, appreciate you being here as always. Next week on Speak Out, we'll be here again from 10:30 until noon, as we are every Saturday morning on 1600 WULM, your community station. Our special guest next week will be Dr. Jean Harper, the superintendent of Springfield City Schools. She's going to be bringing with her some individuals so that we can talk about the new state-of-the-art high school. We'll look forward to being back with you then. In the meantime, have a great week, everybody.
In Maryland leaves at least 7 people dead. A car apparently went out of control, plowing into a crowd gathered to watch the race. Corporal Clinton Copeland with Prince George's County Police says it was a horrible accident.
The one phrase that jumped out at me was victory over the disbelievers. When